When you posted on X that USAID is how the CIA gets shit done, can you explain that to people who may not be initiated here?
The CIA liaises with assets of the U.S. government that are capacity built to advance U.S. national security interests or to advance U.S. national interest, like keeping us safe or making us wealthier. The CIA started getting in trouble in the 1960s and 70s with all the scandals of what they were doing, and it moved a substantial amount of its operations into USAID, the humanitarian group. It was a sort of NGO plausible deniability layer. You can think of it as three stools when it comes to advancing U.S. national interests abroad. The State Department sets the policy. The CIA will do the operations of telling our assets on the ground what to do and working with them, but none of that works unless those assets are capacity built, meaning they're given money, they're given resources, they're able to beef up their staff. What we do whenever we go into a country is we do what's called the baseline assessment. For example, if we have 14 NGOs in the area and they only have a little bit of money, if the State Department says we need 50, or if the CIA says we need 50, USAID will find a way to multiply those institutions and it will run the money to them. USAID plays that role for DOD, for CIA, and for state, and that's why they've become really the most important institution in American foreign policy.
Check him out. Let's see how close we can get. There he is. Yeah, let's get over. Let's get a little closer. See if he goes anywhere. Let's zoom back out just a little bit. Keep getting closer. Oh, there he goes. Oh well. Watching the world burn, watching the world burn. February 12th, 2025. Let's get into it. First story that I just loved was that press conference yesterday with Elon Musk and Donald Trump in the Oval Office there. That was the craziest press conference I've ever seen in my life. If you haven't watched it, man, you got to at least check out the highlights. And I just kind of hit on just a couple of things that I absolutely loved. Was the first one was the kid. I mean, especially when Elon put the kid up on his shoulders and the kid was like picking his nose and sticking his fingers in Elon's ears. And then you come to find out the kid's name is X. And I thought, what kind of a name is that for a parent to give a kid? Named him X, after the X platform, I guess. And then I got to thinking about it. Well, how many movies have we seen? Remember Men in Black? There was K, remember? And that seemed perfectly normal for them to call him K. so I guess X is as good, and it's actually pretty cool when you really think about it. So that was the funny part. But the thing that was really cool was how Elon was just kind of off the cuff answering the questions. He said, look, my favorite part was when this left-wing a reporter, and she was trying to get Elon in a gotcha moment. And she goes, well, you said that there were $50 million worth of condoms that went to Gaza. And that's not true. They actually went to Mozambique to prevent HIV or something like that. Yeah, I think that's about how it went. And Elon, he says, well, we're not going to get everything right, all the time. We're not, we can't do that. He says, and I certainly want you to call me out whenever we get something wrong, and we greatly appreciate that. He says, but I still submit, even if they went to Mozambique, that $50 million worth of condoms is not a good way to spend the taxpayers' money. He said, so either way, he says, I just don't see that as an expense that the American people can stand behind. Oh man, that was just the most perfect answer. I was yes. Oh God. Anyway, so I did want to give you the media slant, and we're going to watch a video here in just a minute with Anderson Cooper. But so the media's come out, and I can't remember the exact title but it's something like Elon Musk humiliates Trump in Oval Office press conference because made Trump look small or made him look tiny, because he was overshadowed by Elon Musk. That's what they're running with, man. I don't think Trump just kind of sat there. I mean, he did. I was really proud of Trump, actually, because he just let Elon kind of take over and just run everything. And Trump interjected occasionally, but he just sat there at the Oval desk and listened to it. And anyway, it was, you got to watch the whole thing. Well, let's watch that Anderson Cooper video right now.
It was surreal, but I got to tell you, I know what you're not showing here. Musk gave 7 specific examples off the top of his head of where the corruption and fraud were. I know you didn't play the clips. He was talking about a contractor that had a 3-month contract. He was paid for 20 years. He was talking about welfare benefits that were being paid to someone that was technically 150 years old. He was talking about line items in the Treasury that had no justification.
There's no any actual, he doesn't present any actual evidence.
Well, he's standing there in the Oval Office. Do you expect him to come in with 10,000 pages? And I have to be clear, to complain about this administration about transparency, when this president takes open questions on a daily basis, yet Joe Biden didn't show up for a press conference in 6 months, is insane. Well, these guys are being extremely transparent. They don't have to sit there and take the questions, but they do. That's all on the website. It's all out there.
It's not transparency to say things that have no factual background. I mean, to say we're cutting, we've found $1 billion or $1 trillion in waste with no specifics, that's just talk. That's not transparency.
It's 23 days in here, guys. 23 days. You're talking about 2.3 billion that was saved last year. These guys are saving 2.3 billion a day.
Right, but
it's incredible.
That's what they're saying. But where's the proof?
You're waiting. You're not going to be satisfied till he shows up with 10,000 pages.
But 10,000 pages. Yeah. He's giving very specific things.
Yes, he's giving.
But he's not actually giving any evidence of that.
It's all going to come because what they also said was, if we have to go to Congress, we'll go to Congress.
Right, but
we'll show where it is.
Some of the details that have come out, like the $59 million spent on luxury hotels, it's actually not.
Talking about the FEMA money that was used for migrants. That was.
Yeah.
FEMA money for migrants, that's okay now?
No, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay. Don't put words in my mouth.
So would you stop that? Would you stop that process?
Don't be a dick. The portrayal, what I'm saying is the portrayal by him is...
Okay, so that was the Anderson Cooper video. So anyway, I'm really been harping on the North Carolina situation. And Insurrection Barbie. I'll put the post up above, but evidently there's 500 million, I think, or somewhere around the post. You're looking at it now, and so there's a whole bunch of food sitting in the ports from USAID that that they're saying it could spoil, unless we get it to wherever the destination was. And she said, why don't we just take that food and give it to Americans that need it? If you live in North Carolina, wouldn't you drive? I mean, it's California, so really, but if you had a plane, especially with a private jet, wouldn't you be willing to fly to California and pick up that food? And it doesn't have to go to North Carolina. Anybody that needs it, the homeless, get it out. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in California that would volunteer to go down to that dock and grab some of that food and physically walk it over to the homeless. Because if you ever watch Jeremiah, Babe, he's always going out and handing out bottles of water and stuff like that to the homeless, or anything that they might need. So yeah, the food. We just need Americans to go in there, grab the food, and give it to people, right? Yeah, I don't know. So that was kind of another story. The next one was, and I thought of this. Okay, one of the things that is wrong about the country, and this is why, these Democrat states that aren't requiring voter ID. Now, in my last video, I told you how the Social Security numbers can be duplicated, and that's how they're getting the illegal aliens onto the voter rolls, okay? Or the Democrats are. I don't know. Maybe it's happening in some of the Republican states. It could certainly happen anywhere you want, where you've got illegal aliens. But anyway, I wanted to talk about New York for a minute, and there's a real good video on this to talk about how they are really circumventing the voter laws. You know, I dare say, I wonder if New York may actually have voted Republican, but because of all the cheating that takes place there, it stayed Democrat because of the way they've rigged everything. So I got a real good video on the situation in New York. Let's watch that now.
New York's top court set to consider non-citizen voting in New York City elections today. Get this, non-citizens, you don't belong here, you're not registered, blowing off court appearance, doesn't matter. That would add 800,000 non-citizen voters. Why is this even a discussion?
It shouldn't be. New York Republicans fought back against this effort several years ago. We were victorious in the lower court and the appellate division, and now it goes to the Court of Appeals. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit concerned because the New York Court of Appeals has been corrupted by Kathy Hochul and New York Democrats. This is why they tried to gerrymander our maps again last year. They added people who are way too progressive for the court to try and move the court in a different direction. I am concerned, certainly, that the Court of Appeals will make a political decision and not follow the Constitution. It is very clear. Non-citizens do not have the right to vote in our elections, period. There's a reason New York is a sanctuary state and city, though. And the reason is they want illegal immigrants counted as part of the census. That gives them more congressional seats and it gives them more electoral votes. That's what this all boils down to. They want them to be able to vote in our elections. I fundamentally believe that it is wrong. It violates both the U.S. and New York State constitutions and needs to be prohibited. And if the court had any courage or any conviction at all, it will reject this outright today.
You would think, because they want to loosen up that. Next thing you know, non-citizens voting in general elections. They'll figure out a way to do that. You know what I think it is? Republicans getting very close in New York to winning a lot of traditional Democratic seats, maybe even the governor's mansion. And they got to start letting everybody know that we're going to have to maybe bend the rules a little to stay in power. Mike Lower, thanks so much.
Okay, so that kind of explained everything to you about what they're doing in New York. Now, here's my philosophy. I want to take it one step further, you know, because here's my thing. All right, so you got California. Because that's the biggest example. California is going to go Democrat because they cheat like hell. Any state that doesn't require voter ID, you know that that's just so that they can rig the election. So if we could get an attorney general, you know, from the Republican states or the Justice Department or whoever to say that, look, we are not going to count a state in the Electoral College that does not have voter ID. Don't you think that's a very reasonable requirement? So in other words, California, you got to remember, by them, you know, slanting the Electoral College and also packing the House of Representatives with rigged elections and the senatorial seats with rigged elections, that's, you know, that right there really hurts the government. So I do think that we could bring a case as Republicans against against the California and say, look, any state that doesn't have voter ID will not be counted. And in fact, we will not accept your representatives or your senators. And then, of course, there's a rumor mill that California wants to secede from the Union. Boy, wouldn't that be great? I would love to see California become its own country. You know, I wonder how long that would last. Oh my God, that would be just amazing. So that was kind of the next thing I wanted to talk about, because we always got to talk about election fraud to a certain degree. The other thing that I want people to know, you know, by the way, you know that gold's, it's up over $2,900 thanks to the Democrat and their spending. And also silver sitting between 32 and 33 right now. It's just been kind of hovering in there. But anyway, there's no amount of cutting that can be done by the DOGE team that can save us. So one way or the other, we're either going to have inflation or a recession, or both. And because it's been set up. The Biden administration, or the Manchurian administration is what I prefer to call it, the damage that they did in the last 4 years, it's just too much. It's too much. I mean, the amount of deficit spending that they did, the importing of millions upon millions of illegal aliens and criminals into the country and bringing terrorists into the country. I mean, you could just go down the whole litany of things that they've done. So anyway, I just don't see how we're gonna stay out of that. So anyway, that's we'll get another clip here in a minute when I think of some other things. But that's what I wanted to lead off with, was the election and that conference. You know, and of course I've been harping. Oh, the other one was USAID. Forgot about this. As you know, they sent that $59 million to New York City to house illegal immigrants. FEMA. Okay, the FEMA did. Rather than give it to the people of North Carolina or Florida or Ohio. And I don't know if they're going to be able to get that money back. I haven't heard anything on whether they can reclaim it back into FEMA. But the good news is Trump fired 4 people for that.
We received a statement from the DHS regarding the $59 million sent from FEMA to New York City migrants last week. Quote, 4 employees being fired today for circumventing leadership and unilaterally making the egregious payment for hotels for migrants in New York City. There's going to be firings, the names are going to be out, and let's bring in New York Congressman Mike Lower. Congressman, your thought about that move?
Well, it's long overdue, frankly. These funds have been misappropriated going back to the Biden administration. And New York City, a sanctuary city, has been wasting billions of dollars of taxpayer money, billions with a B, to provide free housing, clothing, food, education, and health care to illegal immigrants, including criminal aliens that are here illegally. And so, you know, I applaud, frankly, DHS for taking action to stop these payments under President Trump's leadership, because we have incentivized cities like New York and states like New York, a sanctuary state, to allow this to continue, and it has to stop.
Look, it cost New York, and it's a little selfish of us, billions of dollars because the water was wide open for 4 years. And the mayor that spoke up got exiled in the Democratic Party.
No question. Eric Adams spoke out against what the Biden administration was doing. He said that the migrant crisis was, quote unquote, destroying New York City. Kathy Hochul authorized billions of dollars of state taxpayer money to pay for all these expenditures. Meanwhile, she's fleecing hardworking New Yorkers $2,500 just for the privilege of driving to work. It really just speaks volumes to how inept, incompetent, and corrupt New York has become under feckless leadership.
Right.
We have to stop this massive influx at the border, which is what President Trump is doing. But we have to stop incentivizing states and cities like New York by spending billions, and in this case from FEMA, $59 million to support their efforts to circumvent federal law. That's really what this boils down to.
Now, I would prefer that they go to jail, personally, but at least they're fired from FEMA, so that was a good thing. And also the person that was heading up USAID has also been fired. Now, they are bringing lawsuits to get their jobs back, but I can't see how that'd be successful, because Trump certainly has the authority to fire anybody he wants in the executive branch, you know. All right, well, the sun's getting behind me. We'll wait till we'll get on a different trail, and we'll add to the video. All right, so we played that video on New York City, and I'm glad you got to see that. And then I had another video for you. This is Tom Homan, and he's basically saying the same thing about why Democrats opened up the borders and brought in all these illegal aliens. But, you know, neither one of those videos, I don't think, understand that it wasn't just about, you know, the census or votes. I mean, that was part of it. I do believe it was also about, I mean, think about all the money that they funneled into the illegal aliens, and still were even after Trump took office. You know, I believe they were intentionally bankrupting the country. And Anyway, that's just, and I believe it was the intentional demolition of the United States by the Democrat Party. And that's my honest opinion. So anyway, let's watch that video by Tom Homan.
So President Trump deserves credit, not just securing that border, but in saving lives by securing that border. And Biden administration could have did the same thing. They knew how to do it. They just didn't want to do it because they undid everything Trump did. They would have just kept everything in place, would never have this issue we had. But why would they purposely unsecure a border? Because it's not incompetence, it's not mismanagement. They knew exactly what they were doing because they wrote over 90 executive orders destroying everything. It gave us the most secure border in my lifetime, my career. I think it's for a lot of reasons. I think there's some that really truly believe in open borders. There should be no borders. Some think there's a future political benefit by these millions being future Democratic voters. But we don't even have to get there because they also overturned the Trump census rule, which means millions of illegal aliens will be counted in the next census in sanctuary cities, which would result in more House seats for Democrats. They sold this country out for future political power.
All right, so there was that video. And then I got another good video from Joe Rogan. And, I'll just let the video speak for itself, but it's mainly just about how the Democrats are going nuts in hatred of Elon Musk because he's taking away their grifting.
We're defending ourselves. We were right. We were just a little off in timeline.
No, we were wrong about that, for sure. But I do think...
But we were right about the general.
Well, I think...
That red wave happened.
It's been something I think, like, for all the shit that lots of people get, there has been, like, wave after wave after wave of people leaving the Democratic Party. I'm still seeing it online. Someone just yesterday posted some video and it was like, I'm done with you. I was like, how are you guys still shedding people? How are you still...
They're going to keep shedding people. They're not going to correct course. This is a buffalo drop. Do you know those buffalo jumps?
No.
You know, the Native Americans used to, one of the ways to hunt buffalo was to get them to the edge of a cliff and just run at them, and they just fall off the edge of the cliff, and then people would be waiting on the bottom, and they butcher them and eat them.
Okay.
We're in that pile of buffalo.
We're all being run off the cliff?
Yeah, they're going to go off the cliff. There's no way they're not.
Yeah.
They're not course correcting at all. They're saying stupid shit. It's all nonsense. Their understanding of social media and the dynamics that you set up by having completely state-controlled mainstream media where they only said the narratives that you guys wanted. They all said it in step. So you could watch different programs repeat the exact same words, exact same phrases. We know they got talking points. We don't trust you anymore. We don't trust the New York Times. We don't trust the Washington Post. We don't trust CNN or any of the MSNBC, where they're all full with propaganda.
Yeah.
And so that's why the internet rose. It's not because there was some sort of a fucking right-wing conspiracy and heavily funded. No, you guys suck. You guys fucking suck. And you're not real people, and you're not, like, nobody wants to hang out with Brian Stelter. You know what I'm saying? None of these fucking people are people that people can actually relate to and like.
What I worry about is how much this is where I get mad at the media for presenting this like, this is Hitler, we're having it notched up to 11 for the past 8 years. And now you've got this, because he was put in, it's almost like that energy has been transferred to Elon now. Because now, did you see the Elon protests? They're protesting Elon. They're literally standing out there with signs that say, arrest Elon Musk.
Listen, I guarantee it's organized. I guarantee it's organized by the same people that are going to lose a shitload of money based on all these discoveries at DOGE. There's no way they're not. If you look at what DOGE is uncovering, what they're uncovering with this USAID stuff, a lot of that stuff was organizing through NGOs protests. They organized the attempt at getting Trump impeached.
I thought you were going to say killed.
They organized the impeachment.
That's come out.
They also USAID spent $50 million on the lab that invented coronavirus.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of money involved in this not working. And when you have a lot of money involved, you're going to have organized protest. When you see protests, we all want to think protests like the 1960s. Yeah, fight the war, man. It's like organic, like peace, love, and hippie shit. But that's not what this is. What this is organized, funded protests where someone is spending a lot of money and they're mobilizing other NGOs. They're using their access to these mailing lists and all these different things. And they're putting these things together.
Yeah, but do you think that the average liberal person, do you think that they're going to wake up and come around? Or do you think that they're going to be in like agony for 4 years and be...
What if it works? Like, what if the world gets safer, the country gets safer, the economy improves, and they don't attack civil rights, women's rights, gay rights, all these things that everybody's worried about. And then at the end of it, you realize like, hey, maybe I was wrong.
I mean, that's my question, though. Are they capable of that kind of self-reflection?
Well, we're saying they as if it's like one different, like one kind of person.
No, I mean...
There's so many different people in they.
Agreed. I mean, when I say they, I mean people who have bought into the idea that this person is going to make everything worse and we're going to slip into a fascist technocracy.
Some of them. Some of them are going to slip right into it. Some of them are going to wake up and come around. You know, it's a test. It's a test of character. It's a test of objectivity. It's a test of introspection. There's a lot of things that are going to happen where people are going to have to wonder, like, what was I rooting for? When I was rooting for this progressive liberal government, what was I actually rooting for? Was I rooting for warmongers who were making insane amounts of profit by funding overseas wars?
Yeah.
What was I rooting for? Was I rooting for a basic theft of our tax dollars that's gone to all these like completely useless endeavors that were only set up as ways to pilfer money?
Or the fall of America. Yeah. You know, this is a weird thing to like hate your own country so much that you want it to fall, or the dismantling of the kind of West as we know it. Yeah. You know, I think there is a feeling that Elon might have saved the West.
Yeah.
I feel like at least he's trying to.
I think he did, but just by buying X.
But isn't it funny that he got forced into it? I think there's like something kind of ironic.
Funny because he was trying to get it at a lower price because he knew that they were bullshitting about the amount of bots.
Well, and then they came out yesterday and now it's profitable.
Yeah.
There was like a whole article about how he turned it around.
Of course it's going to be profitable. He's smarter than you.
He is smarter. He also knows that we are all
tapped in.
Oh,
yeah.
I can't stop it. I've always had a Twitter addiction. It's the thing that replaced my drinking and smoking weed. When I quit that, I went right to Twitter. I was like, Elon knows none of these motherfuckers, even when they go to Blue Sky, they've all got secret accounts and they're lurking on Twitter still, or X still, or whatever.
You can't live in that echo chamber, that Blue Sky echo chamber. You can't even go on there and say there's only two genders. If you go on there and say there's two genders, they ban you immediately.
They were like eating themselves within 2 days over there, though.
But that's what always happened.
You know, is messing with their budget. You know, they've been grifting off the American people. I mean, look at it. You got Nancy Pelosi's worth, the good God, 100 million. You realize these salaries that they get are 100,000 plus, between 100 and 200,000, and yet every Democrat in Congress is worth millions upon millions of dollars. I mean, and it's funny how people in the Democrat Party are okay with that. I'm not okay with that. That means, where do you think that money came from? Either some foreign country owns that Democrat, or they grifted it off of the American people. There's no other alternative. Of course, Nancy Pelosi did a lot of insider trading on the stock market. At least I can't call that honest, but there's no rule against it that I know of. Anyway, I wanted to switch gears just a little bit. Let's talk about the Middle East for just 1 second. If you didn't know, Trump is giving those bunker busting bombs to Israel. Now, we were giving them 2,000-pound bombs like candy, which they dropped all over Gaza, killed a hell of a lot of people and leveled pretty much every building in the northern part of the city. So, if you didn't know, Trump's given a deadline. He says if they don't turn over all the hostages by noon on Saturday, all hell's going to break loose. That was Trump's words. Well, if all hell means dropping those bunker busting bombs on Gaza, I guess they figure maybe they'll get down to the tunnels that way. Well, number one, you're going to kill the hostages if any of them are left alive. And number two, I don't think the Middle East is going to put up with this for much longer. You know, I mean, I understand, you know, none of them want to take the Palestinians. You say, well, they don't want to take them. It's okay if we just exterminate all the Palestinians. You know, that doesn't look good on the United States that we're participating in a genocide. Oh, it ain't a genocide, man. What do you call it when you kill 2 million people, man? I mean, what do you want me to say? I mean, if it was all like in Ukraine, where 2 million people, even Trump said 2 million people, I would say that's absolutely an accurate figure, or dead. But those are mostly soldiers. Now, of course, the Ukrainians were firing a lot of missiles at the civilian targets. Oh, that's another story you probably haven't heard about, was in Kursk. The Russians are saying there's been a lot of crimes against the civilians. And they've taken it before the UN, the UN or the UN Security Council or whichever, I don't know what body they've taken it before. And they're saying that these are war crimes. And they're gonna, if they find these Ukrainians, they're gonna bring them up and they're gonna hang them until they're dead. Now, they didn't say hang them, but I'm sure they're gonna face the death penalty of some sort, maybe death by firing squad. So that's what the Russians are saying. They're saying that there's been mass murder of a lot of the civilians because as the Russians are pushing the Ukrainians back, they're taking back, you know, the territory and the cities or the towns and, you know, some villages that the Ukrainians took. And they're saying that, you know, a lot of the civilians are dead because they were murdered brutally. So who knows? I mean, do you want to believe the Russians? I can't believe they would lie about something like that. I would have thought that they would have said something a lot sooner than now. So anyway, but I'm just going to tell you right now, if the war starts up again with Gaza and they drop those bunker-busting bombs, you got Turkey that's getting ready to fight the Kurds in Syria. You got Syria under a terrorist government. You got Iran sitting up there with Russia as a partner, loaded for bear with air defense systems. I mean, and then Egypt. Egypt said that they're not going to allow Trump to relocate the Palestinians in there. In fact, Sisi said he won't even come to the United States until Trump retracts that policy. So anyway, we're not out of the woods yet. I mean, I love Trump. I love what he's doing with DOGE. I love Elon Musk. You know, I don't trust Elon. I think that he's a technocrat. And, you know, somebody was pointing out in a video that there's a lot of technocrats around Trump. And you got J.D. Vance talking about how we're going to be the king of AI. Well, that means that mass surveillance could get a lot worse here in the United States. You know, worse than what the NSA does. So I do worry about our privacy and our, you know, everything like that. Plus, Elon's been putting up a lot of satellites for the defense industry that can spy on Americans as well as the rest of the world. So it's not all peaches and cream, man. We got to keep an eye out and we got to be vigilant to keep what little, you know, freedoms we have. And I tell you what, you can't knock Elon. At least he's saying the right things. Free speech, you know, no gun control. You know, reigning in the government. So, you know, I'm not going to knock him. Oh, the last thing I forgot, the Tulsi Gabbard, the scuttlebutt on X is that she is going to get approved. Now, all the Democrats are going to vote against her. Big surprise there. But it seems that she has enough Republican votes, or people are saying that she does. So and I tell you what, that's a fantastic development. She will give Trump the legitimate information. She's going to be an amazing member of Trump's cabinet. And I've also heard that RFK Jr. may have the votes. Now he's not up for vote. You know, Tulsi, I think, is getting voted on today. Hell, we might even know the answer when I get home. And then RFK. Oh, there was one other thing on the USAID I forgot I wanted to tell you. So USAID, if you didn't know, it was created by an executive order by JFK, you know, back in 1963. So it was created. So here they are. They're bitching about the fact that Trump's going after a section of the government that was created by executive. You understand that if you've heard it, you've heard all the rumors. Biden overturned Trump's executive orders, and then Trump overturned Biden's executive orders. So anything created by executive orders can be overturned by the executive. So that, because it's all part of the executive department. So the fact that they're picking on USAID, that doesn't mean anything. So what I'm saying is, by creating DOGE by executive order is perfectly legit. Okay, a president can create anything, or an agency, USAID, by executive order. The precedence has been set by every president since JFK. So that was the first thing. I just wanted to let you know that. All right, still on the way back. I just got the news on the radio. Woohoo! Tulsi Gabbard is approved.
I, Tulsi Gabbard, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely.
I take this obligation freely.
Without
Mr. President, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for the trust that you have placed in me to fulfill this critical position as Director of National Intelligence at any time, but specifically during this time. Unfortunately, the American people have very little trust in the intelligence community, largely because they've seen the weaponization and politicization of an entity that is supposed to be purely focused on ensuring our national security. So I look forward to being able to help fulfill that mandate that the American people delivered to you very clearly in this election, to refocus our intelligence community by empowering the great patriots who have chosen to serve our country in this way, and focus on ensuring the safety, security, and freedom of the American people. As you've said, Mr. President, this is what I've dedicated my life to, and it is truly humbling to be in this position, to serve in your administration, help to rebuild that trust, and ultimately to keep the American people safe. Last thing I'll mention, that in your National Prayer Breakfast speech, you made a statement about your legacy of wanting to be remembered as a peacemaker. I know that I can speak for many of my fellow service members who are here today, veterans, Medal of Honor recipients, how deeply that resonates with us. For those who volunteer to put their lives on the line when duty calls, but to have a president and commander-in-chief who recognizes the cost of that sacrifice and ensuring that war is the last resort, not the first. So thank you for your leadership on behalf of my friends here and all who wear the uniform. We're grateful. Thank you.
And I called it, man. I was all over X. I told everybody. I said, that turtle, Mitch McConnell, will vote against her. He'll vote against JFK, and he'll vote against Kash Patel. Now, my prediction came true on Tulsi Gabbard. He was the sole Republican vote that voted against Tulsi Gabbard. Tell me that guy ain't a son of a bitch. I swear, I don't know. It's hard to wish evil on anybody, but I hope he keeps falling down, man. I mean, it's terrible for me to think that, but I just, maybe if he falls down enough, we can get him out of the damn Congress. That brings to mind something else I was going to talk about was term limits. I've always been a huge advocate of term limits, but one of the things that we have to do in life is if we have a reason to change our position, and this is where being around a Democrat is unreasonable, because they will never change their position on anything. They're the Borg, man. They are the Borg. They are the hive mind, and that's all they know. They follow what their leaders tell them. They have no independent thought of their own. They're meat puppets, So anyway, there was a big argument, and I was thinking about this. They were saying, well, term limits are all good and dandy, but, if you can only be in Congress for about 4 years, let's say we said it for 4 years. Well, you're just getting your feet wet before you have to leave Congress. And so that would leave the deep state pretty much in charge of the country because the Congress, would never have enough time in office to learn the ropes. Think about when you start a new job. Your first year on the job, I dare say, you might be productive somewhat, depending on the job. If you're a carpenter, you're going to be productive day one, but if you're coming in on a computer job, they're always vastly different. And it takes you a while to get up to speed. So you really don't want your congressman, because they're supposed to be the check. I understand they haven't been doing their job to be the check on the bureaucracy. They haven't done it. That's why DOGE is so important, the Department of Government Efficiency. So anyway, so I thought, okay, but I don't think we should also have a geriatric like Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell in the Congress. For their entire lives, or Joe Biden. My God, he was in Congress for a gazillion years. So my idea is, we tie the age of congressmen to maybe the age of Social Security, for example. Okay, because at 72 years old, that's when you can get, I think it's 72 when you can get full payment on Social Security. Let's say that no senator or House of Representative can be older than 72, just for example. Or you set it at a high bar. Let's say 16 years for the House of Representatives and 20 years for the Senate. I think those are very reasonable numbers for a term limit. Don't you? That's just, and so I changed my opinion. I was thinking like every, let's say 8 years or 4 years for House of Representatives and maybe, 10 years for a senator. But no, I think, we want them in there longer than that. We want, like Nunes. I don't think Nunes would have been able to get the Russia hooks if he hadn't had the experience to be able to know where to dig to get the information out to the public to show that that was all a big lie by the Democrats and Shifty Schiff, By the way, wouldn't it be great if Shifty Schiff goes to jail? And I haven't heard anything more on Fauci. But you remember that movie, Get Shorty? I'm going to look into making some pocket t-shirts, and I'm going to say, get Fauci. That's what's going to be on my t-shirt. Get Fauci. Wouldn't that be fantastic? I want that little short troll in jail. Oh, man, I can just taste it. I can just taste it. And then the last thing for the video was the Democrat talking points. I don't know if you've seen those montages that people, I don't know how they have the time to put it together, but you remember when and so what happens with the media is, I don't know, I would have guessed it's the CIA or some other bureaucrat puts out the talking points for the, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSDNC, and so they all parrot, even the local stations, the Fox stations, they all parrot the same narrative. And so, you ever seen those ones where he's a threat to democracy. 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 And so they all parrot the same thing. There's no way they all come up with that at the same time. And so the latest narrative is DOGE is a constitutional threat. It's a constitutional threat. It's a constitution. So when you're watching, if you do watch any of the mainstream media, I don't watch hardly any of it, except every now and then a clip on X. But look at how they all parrot. Now the parrot point is it's a constitutional crisis, which is the dumbest thing. And I don't know. Are all Democrats just stupid? Or just robotons? I don't get it, man. All right, that is definitely it for the video. But when I got that news on Tulsi Gabbard, I was like, man, I gotta cut in here. That is just so freaking wonderful. I'm gonna go home, dance the jig, and maybe even Maybe even have a shot of whiskey, though it's a little early for that. I better wait till after dinner. All right.